Okay, welcome everyone to the video podcast Lifestyle by Design. I'm your host, Margaret Wiltshire, and tonight I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Jackie Ulmer. Jackie, welcome.
Margaret, thank you. It's so good to be here. I am honored and humbled and happy to be chatting with you and your lovely audience and seeing if we can do some good in the world.
That's right. We can definitely do some good in the world. So Jackie, I have to tell you, my boyfriend, I got into network marketing last year, and my boyfriend had this magazine in his house. Does this look familiar to you?
Nice.
No? Maybe not. So, well, it's dated. Can you see it?
Well, it looks like Tom Big Al Schreider, but I'm guessing it's not.
It is.
Okay, yeah.
And it's dated back in June of 2014. But he gave me this as like inspiration. And out of all these different stories in here, I gravitated towards your story. There you are.
There I am.
And
yes,
I even
indeed.
underlined. See the underline?
You did. I love that.
And
been underlined. Oh, this is such a big moment. Can I tell my kids? They'll be impressed now.
Yes, you can. You most certainly can. But I think one of the big reasons that I resonated more with your story than anybody else's was because you were online. You were doing stuff online, and you were a mom, and you were raising children. I'm also a mom, and I'm raising children. And I was like, wow, I'm going to go look this lady up. And I looked you up.
Yeah.
And I joined your membership, streetsmartwealth.com. And I have to tell you, I was completely blown away. I was like, this woman is a hustler, and she has a work ethic that is to be rivaled. I mean, your membership site is pretty thorough. Anybody who wants to get started with anything online, you've pretty much already done the work for them. All they need to do is just fill in the blanks. And I have to tell you, I really admire your work ethic. You are absolutely amazing. And this is the first time that we're meeting, you know?
Right.
So
thank you. I definitely appreciate that. You know, I do have a good work ethic, and I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I'm patting my dad and my mom on the back, really, because they taught me that work ethic, and it's really done well for me, you know, and it will do well for anyone in network marketing. But man, you know, you got to have it because, you know, I mean, it's a challenging business. It's mental game challenging more than anything, but you know, it definitely is. But it's so funny once a person can get back past that whole thing of, you know, what's the secret and what's this and what do I need to know to do this, and just realize that it's one step after another, and that's what work ethic is. You know, it's just sticking with it and doing the deal over and over and over again. So thank you for that.
Yes, you're amazing and an inspiration. So Jackie, tell me, what did you do before you got into direct sales?
Well, I'm one of those fewer people in the world who truly had a career that I loved. I always say I'm the ultimate party girl. I literally partied for a living. I was in marketing in the airline industry, and I literally traveled around the world on an expense account in first class, wining and dining corporate travelers and travel agents and working to get them to fly our airline. And, you know, it was kind of a pinch me dream job. It really, truly was. Anytime you can travel in first class and on an expense account, you know, that's not all bad, right? So it was fun, but I made one little decision and broke my cardinal rule and dated one pilot, because I had a cardinal rule not to date any pilots. I dated one and I married him. I'm still married to him today. And when it became time to start a family, of course, one of us needed to have our feet on the ground, and that ended up being me, of course. So, you know, that's kind of my story.
Okay. So how did you get into direct sales?
Well, that's an interesting story too, because I am also one of those talk to the hand kind of people about direct sales. in the beginning, it was like, that's one of those things that you do when you can't get a real job. I didn't really know anything about it. I wasn't educated about it, but I had heard some things that made me think that it was bad, and, you know, oh, better stay away from those. And in fact, back when I've always been really entrepreneurial, probably because my dad owned his own business, and I always was trying to, you know, doing something. I mean, I remember going to my grandparents' farm in Texas over Thanksgiving, and they had mistletoe growing in trees. And my brother and I would climb up in the trees and get the mistletoe, and then we would take it all around the neighborhood in Colorado where we lived, and we would sell mistletoe and make all of our Christmas money. It was amazing. But, you know, I did things like that from an early age. I just really, I don't know, I guess I've always been kind of motivated by money, not in a greedy or whatever kind of way, but it was always fascinating to me, you know, money and just the way it all worked and that kind of thing. So I've always been kind of entrepreneurial. And way back before I even had kids, still working in the airline industry, I started my own word processing and kind of my own little service-oriented business around those kind of things. And I went to a networking event. That was the first time I'd ever gone to a networking event. Went to a networking event, and someone was there. And it's kind of funny, the company that they were with, I'm pretty sure it was New Skin, if I remember right. There was a gal there with New Skin, and my real estate agent had invited me to come to this networking event, and she was introducing me to everybody. And this woman talked about her skincare line, and I thought, man, you know, I mean, I'm living in Phoenix at this point, harsh sun and everything, and I'm thinking I can use a good skincare line. And so, you know, when it came time like to give leads and referrals and stuff, I said, oh, you know, I would probably be interested in learning more about your skincare line. And my realtor like takes me aside later, and she's like, that's one of those things, right? You may not want to go down that road. That's one of those things. And I was kind of like, what? Huh? One of what things? You know, network marketing. Well, I didn't even know what I had never even heard that term. I had never heard pyramid scheme or any of that kind of stuff. But I thought, oh, well, okay then. Here's the funny thing though, that woman never called me. She never followed up with me.
Wow.
Which now, being involved in the industry and the profession and understanding, like, you know, people are scared to call people. People are afraid, even sometimes when a lead drops in their lap, they don't know what to do with it. So that's always been an interesting thing that, you know, I have in this year, you know, she's saying, oh, stay away. Those things are bad. Don't get involved in one of those. So it was little things like that that had me kind of skeptical about network marketing. And so when I was presented with my first network marketing opportunity to look at a network marketing opportunity, I wouldn't even look. So it wasn't even a case of looking and going, no, this isn't for me. I was like, oh, no. I'm not doing your presentation thing, you know, no, not for me. Thanks, good luck, move along. And this was a good friend. In fact, a very well-known person in the industry is a good friend of mine. And he was my first sponsor in network marketing, ultimately down the road. So I was introduced and very skeptical. And then this is the classic thing that everybody needs to remember, is that follow-up is the key, because people's life situations change constantly, and you never know when you're going to capture someone when the time is right for them. Because fast forward 15 months later, I've just had my first child. I'm home, but it's tough to make it on one income. You know, even married to an airline pilot who makes good money, you know, there went my expense account, there went all my first class, you know, accommodations and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I was trying to figure out a way to make sure that I could stay home with him and still have a great lifestyle and everything else. So that's the thing. And what happened was, we invited my friend over for Christmas dinner because we were friends. We invited him over for Christmas dinner. He pulls up in front of my house driving a BMW. Now, that person is Jordan Adler, which many people know. And if you've ever read the book Beach Money, you may remember hearing about that beat up Jeep that he drove and that whole thing. It's true. I rode in that Jeep. It was a death trap. But so I was used to this, you know, beat up Jeep that he was driving in. He pulls up in front of my house in a BMW. It was a used BMW. It wasn't anything fancy. And I'm not even a car person. So it wasn't like that the car jumped out at me. But what really got me was that painted a picture of success. So, you know, from here to here. And I said, oh my gosh, where's your Jeep? And I didn't see him that often anymore because he was still working at the airlines. I had left. I was home, you know, taking care of a baby. Anybody, you know, who's had children knows that, you know, your whole life, your old life goes out the window pretty much when you're, you know, home with a new baby and all that kind of thing. So I knew him in that old role, and he pulls up like this. And I said to him, where's the Jeep? What's up? What's with the BMW? And he said to me, oh yeah, you know, XYZ business, it's doing pretty well. I traded, sold the Jeep and bought this, and I'm only working a couple days a month now at the airline. And I was like, say what? Now, at this point, and this is another key piece on follow-up, I'm going to the library because the internet didn't exist in my world yet. This was 1990. This was 1993. Okay. I'm going to the library. I'm looking up every book I can find on businesses from home and things that you can do and, ways to make money and, all that kind of stuff. I'm at the library looking constantly for different things. So when he walks in with this, I'm like, ooh, and, he just keeps going, walks into my house, and I'm like, wait, come back here. What do you mean? What are you doing? Tell me about it. So I made him sit right next to me during Christmas dinner, and I hardly let him eat his meal because I kept saying, okay, now, all right, so tell me about it. Now, who's the company and what is it? And what would I have to do exactly? And, I just was picking his brain and that whole thing. So that's really how it happened. We had a garage sale. It was $600 to get started in that company, $595. And we had a garage sale to raise that money. So that's always a thing too. It's like, what? When people say they don't have the money, if they have a big desire and they really want to do it, they'll find a way. So there's a lot of aha moments really in my story is don't worry about the skeptics. Just keep doing what you're doing. Stay in touch with them because their life situation can change and you don't ever know when that's going to be, but you want to be that beacon of light when the time does change. Okay. And, when people say they don't have the money, that's an excuse because if they see the value in it, they'll do a garage sale, they'll pull an overtime shift, they'll do whatever they have to do to come up with the money. So that's kind of my story. Now, I'd love to tell you that I got started and all was rosy and, we hit the top right away. No, I always say I'll never be written up in the Network Marketing Hall of Fame as a fast starter. I had to overcome all those other obstacles, that negative blueprint that I had, but that's how we got started. And here I am today, 22 years later, alive to tell about it.
So, do you want to share some of well, let me ask you this question first. Were you successful right away?
No, not at all. I mean, I think it took us about 3 or 4 months to sponsor our first person. So, that's really not success right away. Now, where we were fortunate, again, this is another light bulb moment for anyone. We did attack our chicken list. And on that chicken list was another airline pilot and his wife. They were already making a 6-figure income. They lived in a nice house. They took nice vacations. They drove nice cars. Classic example of someone where you might say, oh, they probably wouldn't be interested. And what are they going to think of me and that kind of thing. But we did talk to them. And this is another interesting thing. He was happy, but she had literally been disrupted and moved out of a job many times as he changed airplanes and moved domiciles and they had to move to other cities. It was great for him. He just transferred with the company, but she had to start all over. She was like an administrative assistant. And every time they relocated, she had to start all over. So what I didn't know is that she had been looking too for something that she could do from home, some other way to where she didn't have to keep going to a new city, doing job interviews, doing that whole thing. So she was looking and she was wide open to it. She didn't know anything about network marketing, had never been involved. And she got busy and we just had an organization that pretty much mushroomed pretty quickly after that point. That was about 6 or 7 months into it. So some people may say that's a fast starter. I think where I feel like I wasn't a fast starter is because even though we had that success, that alone did not help me get out of my own way to continue prospecting on a regular basis and, still sponsoring and that kind of thing. So we had success, but I didn't have the kind of success that I was looking for in terms of just, being a go-getter from the very beginning.
Okay. Jackie, what's a chicken list for those who are listening and they may not know what it is?
Yep. And good. It's easy to get into your jargon in any profession, really. I'm from the airline industry, and believe me, we have plenty of jargon in that profession too. But your chicken list are those people who and you may know well, but you're kind of afraid to talk to them. You're kind of like, maybe you'll put them on the list, but maybe you'll put them over to this side of the list because you're afraid of what they might think, what they might say. You make an assumption that they're already successful, they won't be interested. That's a chicken list. Anyone who you're hesitant to pick up the phone and call or text or whatever.
So can you tell me what it was like for you, maybe when you got your first no, and then maybe your second and your third? What was happening to you?
Oh, it was devastating. Are you kidding? Oh my gosh. You know, I took it as a personal rejection and wondered if network marketing was bad like I thought it was, or if my company was bad or something like that. But I'll share the story of Mean Janine, because everybody probably has one of these. But you can let a no do a couple things to you. And in the beginning, I let no's really bring me down, make me question myself, make me question what I was doing. But somewhere along that journey, somewhere in that first year, when I was still struggling with my own confidence in talking to people, I got up my nerve. Now, that was back in the 90s, and we had little manila envelopes with a cassette tape. Yes, a cassette tape and a brochure and probably a sign-up form and probably way too much information in it, but that was our information opportunity pack. I got up my nerve, put my little pack together, and I went next door and rang my neighbor's doorbell, and I was going to talk to her about this. And it took me a while to get up my courage to do this. Now, we were not close friends. In fact, we had a little bit of animosity. She ran an in-home daycare, and the kids would climb up on their thing and throw toys over, and my black lab dog would eat the toys. And it was just like, it was a constant craziness. And we had a few other issues. We were civil and nice, but we were not close or best friends or anything. But I was going to go through my whole list, just like, you know, you're supposed to. I knock on the door, ring the doorbell, whatever. She answers the door, and I don't even remember what I said. I'm sure I said way too much. I probably threw up all over her, all this stuff, you know, way too much, and, you know, basically held out my little packet and, you know, just wondering if you'd be interested in taking a look at this. And she literally looked at me, threw her head back, cackled like this laugh, this cackling laugh, slapped her knee and said, "You got involved in one of those?" I mean, literally, it was like your worst nightmare. It was like, you know, what you hear about. It was your worst nightmare. And I still remember to this day, like that red hot feeling of humiliation and embarrassment and anger and all this stuff just like boiling up in me. And mostly it was humiliation. Like it embarrassed me. And there she was laughing at me, slapping her knee, and, "Oh, you got involved in one of those." And I don't even remember what I said. I mean, I got out of there as fast as I could. I remember going back home, going in my house, you know, slamming the door shut and sitting down and just thinking, you know, this is crazy. This is just crazy. I mean, I shouldn't be treated like this, whatever. And I simmered and stewed for probably an hour. And that was a huge turning point for me, because at that moment, I made a decision. And the decision I made was not to let her be right. Not to let me be one of those statistics where she could say, "See, I told you so." Nobody succeeds in those. I made a decision right there that I didn't know what it was going to take. I didn't know how long it was going to take, but I was going to the top. And so I let that negative emotion really become a positive driver for me, because every time I would feel like quitting, I would hear that cackle and see that vision of her slapping her knee and literally throwing her head back and laughing at me. And that has served me well. And I have shared that story with thousands of people. Today, I've moved on to bigger and better things, and she still lives in that same neighborhood and has been divorced 2 more times. And, you know, and that sounds like I'm judging her. I really don't mean it that way. Maybe I do a little bit, but mostly I don't. But, you know, it was just, I mean, it's kind of a validating thing that I let that propel me in a positive way. Instead of choosing to quit over it, I chose to say, "Oh, heck no, lady, you're not going to be right." So, you know, everybody has those, you know, everybody has those times of, if you feel like rejection, it's not you, it's them. It's not you. Keep going, keep going.
So what was the moment for you? That was great that you were able to turn that around and use her, so to speak, as motivation. But when was the moment that things finally clicked for you and you decided, I'm moving forward? Maybe you started having some success, but when was that moment for you?
It's, you know, I don't know for everybody, but for me, it was a series of moments. I can't say that there was absolutely one particular moment where everything came together. That was a defining moment with Mean Janine. Another defining moment was when I went to company convention, and my sponsor and good friend, Jordan Adler, who I mentioned, he was starting to rise up in the ranks of the company. And I had done okay, like I was mid-level, but, you know, just okay. And we had moved into the Dallas, you know, Reunion Arena or whatever it was called at that time, 10,000 people in it. he got invited to speak that year. And so of course he got to sit down in the VIP seats and I'm up in the nosebleed seats, right? And that was kind of a defining moment because I realized he's going on without me, like he's going to keep going. He doesn't need me. He's not waiting for me. If I want to do this thing, it's up to me. Like I have to buckle down and do this thing. That was a defining moment.
Okay.
Then another defining moment was my upline. So what in that interim time, my husband actually worked the business with me when we first started. And then a couple years into it, he reached a point where he came home one day and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I will totally support you. I believe in network marketing, but I'm getting off one airplane for American Airlines. I'm getting on another airplane to fly around and build this team because I'm home with the babies, right? And everything. And he's like, I feel like I never see my kids. I travel enough as it is. I believe in it, but I'm just done. I can't do this. And at first I was like, what? Like you were the one who was going to build it. I was just going to cash the checks and stand beside you on stage and look adoringly at you and, be your trophy wife or whatever. And, yes, we built this fabulous business kind of thing. And so all of a sudden, like I was feeling my dreams, tumbling down around me and realizing, oh my gosh, like if that means I'm going to have to do it, like I'm going to have to be the one to do it, to talk to everybody, whatever. So, I stewed on that one for a little bit. And then we actually ended up having a surprise birthday party for my sponsor and my upline, who was this like amazing corporate banker executive woman that was just like, she was all that in terms of the corporate world. And now she was doing network marketing and she had the pedigree and, everything. And I remember her saying, you can do this. You really can. I believe in you and you can do this. That was a huge defining moment too, because it was like, oh, wow. I mean, okay, she thinks I can do this. Maybe I can. So that was one. And then the final one was we ended up moving from Phoenix to California right after 9/11 due to my husband's job and airline industry and all the stuff that went on with that. And right after we moved into this almost twice as big house and certainly twice as much house payment and taxes. And, it's a lot more expensive to live in California than it is Arizona and most any other place. So we had, increased all of our bills. And right after we did that, the airline industry, was in horrible dire straits after 9/11. And we took a 25% pay cut after we had done all this. A quarter of your income is pretty significant when you've just essentially doubled your bills. And that was a defining moment too, because I thought to myself, okay, well, we're not going to lose our house, but it's not going to be super fun, from here on out. There's not going to be a lot of extra money to do much of anything. We're going to be house poor, basically, is what we're going to be. We're going to be in a nice house doing all this, but we're going to be house poor. And he can't really fly any more than he's flying. And so if it's going to change, it's seriously up to me. And that's when I made the final decision and said, enough messing around. Like, seriously, I got to treat this business like a business and get after it. And that's what I did. And everything took off from there. It really, truly did. I had just started really working on the internet. Well, I'd been about 2 years working on the internet, but I just really buckled down and got busy and really put my full focus into it. And boom, it took off from there. It was a series of moments.
Okay. Did you have a mentor that you worked with closely?
No. No. I did not have a mentor. I did not have a coach. I had a lot of mentors who I listened to their CDs and cassettes and read their books and, that kind of stuff over and over and over again. So in many ways, I feel like I was mentored. Okay. But no, I didn't hire a coach for a long time. I was well into six figures before I ever hired my first coach. I don't know why. That's a great question. I don't have any idea why. I guess there was a part of me that felt like I was into personal development forever. Like I literally I think it was in 97, in January of 97, I read Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire. That was the first personal development book I had ever read. And that started me on a journey. That's when I gave up the news. I gave up really TV of any significance. I gave up all that and everything I poured into personal growth and development. When I was in my car, I was listening to CDs. I mean, my kids can, recite some of them, goal setting and all this kind of stuff, because they got to ride around listening to it too. I really went into that mode. So I think part of it, well, first of all, there weren't nearly as many coaches and mentors out there as today. You can find people who do that. But I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I needed to do. And I basically knew how to get rid of my negative mindset too. I just needed to do it. And so I think for me at that point, that's what it was.
Okay. So for you, what was your process like when you started and you got serious and you crossed that line and you said there's no going back? What was your process like?
Well, it was really heavy into internet marketing at that point. And I had exhausted my warm market way before that. I was 6 years offline, had a team of over 10,000 people by the time I actually took my business to the internet. A lot of times people forget that part of it. They think I just started on the internet and leads just started pouring in and I knew immediately what to say. No, that's not the story at all. So, but I just got really super focused on what I needed to do. For some reason, the internet marketing always came very intuitively to me because I knew that all I really needed to do online was the same thing that I did offline. I needed to make connections with people. So I just got very focused in the time that I had because I still had small children, PTA, carpool, sports off the mountain, like an hour drive because I lived in a small mountain community at that point. We didn't even have a stoplight, so that's how small it was. So building on the internet was a big deal for me, but I just got really focused with that, with reaching out to people, making connections, and really focused on attraction marketing, blogging, creating content, marketing that content, and at the same time, reaching out to people and building and developing those relationships, and then following up, and being very consistent. I did a lot of direct mailing at that point. People would come in as a lead to me. They'd give me their address. I would direct mail information out to them. So even though I was an internet marketer generating leads, I never tried to have the internet do everything. I really wanted to model for people that I was a real person. I was accessible. If they gave me their phone number, I would call them. If they called me, I would call them back. That I really was treating it like a business. And that was really it, That was really it.
Okay. So how you said marketing online came a bit intuitive to you. How did you get into How did you get into direct sales online?
It's kind of funny. So my very first company, the company I was with at the time, which doesn't exist anymore, they were one of the first companies to launch personal websites for their distributors. One of the very first ones. So we were getting these websites, and that was in 1999 actually, and we had gotten online. We had a .com because my husband tried to download his bids from the airline, and quite frankly, he never could figure out how to do it. So he always had to walk in and pick them up from the flight office anyway. It was kind of funny. And, I knew how to get on and check email. Like once a week, I would get on and check email. And I knew how to use Yahoo a little bit, except I always got lost and never could get back to where I had started. And, I didn't use it that much, but everywhere I was going, I was seeing .com, on billboards and magazines. Everything was starting to be .com this and .com that and all that kind of thing. And, about that time, my company was launching these personal websites. So one of my downline called me one day and said, hey, tomorrow's Saturday, there's this internet marketing seminar up in Scottsdale. It's 2 hours in the afternoon. This was in October of 1999. And she said, do you want to go? Maybe we can prospect some people. And I really didn't want to go, to be honest. I wanted to hang out by the pool with my family because my husband was home, and October in Phoenix is beautiful and it's not so hot anymore. And I really didn't want to go, but I thought, I should be a good role model. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go. So I did. We go to this internet marketing seminar. They were trying to sell me a $5,000 space on an internet mall, which I didn't even understand. I didn't understand half of what they were saying. But what I did understand were all the facts and figures that they were spouting off about the internet, how it was doubling every 60 days and tripling every 90 days. And people were coming on it in droves, and it was the greatest self-help tool we'd ever had. And it was going to revolutionize everything and change the world and blah, blah, blah. And I sat there listening to all that, and I thought, holy smokes, if people are getting online to find the hours of Disneyland or a restaurant in Buffalo, New York, or different things like that, there have to be a certain number of people who are going online trying to find a business that they can do something to solve their financial dilemma. And if I can just put myself out there, if I can figure this thing out, this is going to be magic. And so I got home, I came home from that seminar, walked in the house and said to my husband, I'm going to the library. I'll be right back. I went to the library. Fortunately, we had a library right up the street. Went right up the street to the library, checked out every book I could find on internet marketing, online marketing. I didn't even know those books existed, but I figured they must, since everybody was talking about this, right? I come home with this huge pile of books. I throw it down on the dining room table and I said, I'm taking our business to the internet. And he was like, yeah, whatever. Okay, we can't even figure out how to use it, and you're going to have a business on the internet? I'm like, I am. So I got busy. Interestingly, that was on a Saturday. That Tuesday night, I was supposed to give the business opportunity in Phoenix for our organization. And interestingly enough, now this still exists. I think it's MLMU by Hilton Johnson, MLMU.com. I think it's still out there. Anyway, he ran these weekly webinars that you could sign up for, these free webinars that would educate you, and they would always sell something at the end. It was the very beginning of that, though, like selling stuff at the, that kind of thing. It was conference calls. They weren't webinars. I'm sorry, that didn't exist. They were conference calls. And it came in and it was going to be a guy talking about how to build your business locally using the internet. And I was like, oh my gosh. I called and got myself replaced as the speaker. And I stayed home and I got on this conference call. And I still have the notes around here somewhere. I've never thrown them away because he was talking about all this stuff, domain names and URLs and search engines and all this stuff. And I'd never heard of any of those terms before. I didn't know what any of it meant, but I kept writing it down thinking, I'll figure all this out later, right? I'll figure all this out later. And I did ultimately later, much later for some of it. In fact, autoresponders, it took me a long time. I thought it was magical that I'd put my name and ask a question and immediately I'd get a response back. I was like, wow, that is like magical marketing. How do they do that? Like I had no clue. But he talked about registering a catchy domain name and building a website and then just making business cards and leaving your business cards with your website all over town. And I thought I can do that. So I got online the next day. I made a list of all these names. I looked at my bookshelf with all these books, all my favorite network marketing and goal setting books. I made this list of names of about 15 names. I took it to my husband and I said, which of these do you like best? And one of them was Street Smart Wealth. And he said, I like Street Smart Wealth. That's catchy. And I said, that's funny. That's the one I like best too. So then I'm like, okay, I have to register this thing. So I go online, register domain that I had heard this guy talking about, right? I register my domain name. I get my credit card out. And then I realized that I'm paying for hosting. Like it was a whole process. And then I'm like, well, holy smokes. Then I got to get a website. Like if I'm paying for hosting, I need some value. So then I go back to the library and find out how to build a website. Anyway, crazy. I mean, it's a wonder I have hair today because I'm telling you, I pulled it bald because nobody was selling how to do things. I mean, nobody in network marketing was selling anything. Nobody was sharing. If there were people in network marketing, I'm sure there were, that were building it online in 1999. I don't know who they were. I couldn't find them. But I feel so lucky because the books and manuals and training that I did buy were by true internet marketers. And it was back in the golden days when they were just giving me the straight scoop. There were no secrets and no this kind of thing. It was like, do this, do this, do this. And that's what I did. I built a website. I developed a lead capture so I could build a list, and I started creating content. I would market that out on article sites, which now have turned into YouTube and your blog. And, so it's kind of interesting. What I do today is the same thing that I did back then. It's just that the platforms are different. But the thing that was intuitive for me, I didn't understand SEO. Like people were talking about search engine optimization. I had 2 little kids and a husband who was gone half the month. And I had about this much time to even work on this internet thing. And the last thing I had time for was to sit down and figure out SEO, like search engine optimization, like how to make Yahoo, because Google was just getting started, quite frankly. It was Yahoo back then, how to make them find me, and things like that. But what I did know, what was intuitive, is I started finding all these message forums in places where other people using the internet were hanging out. And I thought, well, if I can just go network with other people, and they always had a place like you could have a little signature line. So it was expect success, Jackie Ulmer, streetsmartwealth.com. Like that was my original website. And so every time I would post something on the forum, that would be my signature right at the bottom. I never posted about my opportunity. I never advertised. I intuitively knew that I was building relationships and I was going to interact with people the same way that I would offline. So if I went to the Chamber of Commerce or BNI meeting and I met you, I wouldn't immediately walk in and start saying, oh, you need to join my opportunity. It's so great, whatever. It would be, hey, how are you? What are you doing here? What do you do? Tell me about you. Do you have kids? What are you looking for? Or people would post questions like, people would post questions saying, I really want to be a stay-home mom. I'm looking for something I can do. Any ideas? And everybody else would, of course, spam them with their opportunity. Oh my gosh, you need to join XYZ company because it's the best. I never would mention my company. I would always say, well, tell me about you. Well, Margaret, tell me about you. How many kids do you have? What do you do now? What are your interests? What really interests you? If you kind of close your eyes and think about a product that you might want to represent or what you would be doing in a business, what does that look like? And I would attract all these people because I was different. I was really engaging with her instead of just spamming my links out there and talking about how mine was the best, thing in the world, and that's what they needed to be joining and that kind of thing. So the intuitive thing was that I knew all along that I was building relationships, that it wasn't about me advertising my opportunity. It was about me becoming memorable to people, becoming memorable through my signature line, becoming memorable through content that I would share out there. So I always had a goal to share a piece of content, like how to do an effective 3-way phone call, because we were doing a lot of those back then. How to follow up with prospects, how to bring prospects to your local meeting and introduce them to the movers and shakers in the room. I would post articles out there like that, and then I would go and engage and answer questions and chat with people who were asking other things. But I always made sure that I put my content out there first so that people would find that and wonder about it and see my name. We didn't even have, occasionally you could do a little avatar. Occasionally you could upload a photo and that would be there. But most of the time they didn't even see that. But they always had to click to go back to my website. And once I had them on my website, I could get them signed up in my newsletter or my lead capture. And then I could walk them through and talk to them about business because now they were on my website. And that was a whole different thing because that was all about my business and me and the value that I was offering. So that's really how I built it. And that's really how I build it today. I do the same thing today. Same exact thing. Nothing's changed. Just the forums have changed. The sites and where we do all that has changed.
Yeah. You definitely know how to network and build relationships and give value. That's you giving a lot of value. And that's how you drew me in.
See, it works. I always love that. And it's funny, when I talk to prospects, they'll say, well, does it work? Can I really build a business on the internet? And I always say, well, how did you find me? Why are we having this conversation? Oh, yeah. I'm like, of course it works. You have to work it. You have to, develop the skill set. There's not a skill in network marketing or internet marketing that can't be developed. Every skill you need to be successful in both can be developed. But it takes time. It takes tenacity. It takes that work ethic that we talked about. It takes focus, but it can all be developed. All of it.
Jackie, I'm going to stray a little bit from online. What did you have to let go of? What fears did you have to let go of to step into this and own it and become successful at it?
I had to let go of my ego. And that's what gets in the way of most people. Mark Yarnell, bless his heart, passed away 1.5 years ago, I think it's been now. But I did an interview on my podcast with him a few years before that. And he said the most brilliant thing ever. And it so rang true for me. But, he was like, you have to be willing to let go of a temporary, you have to be willing to undergo a temporary loss of self-esteem to be successful. And it was just like, whoa, that summed it up beautifully. That was me, because the reality of it is when you're fearful about what someone might think of you, that's ego. And first of all, people aren't spending as much time thinking about you as you want to think that they are. They're not spending that much time thinking about me either. So I mean that for myself more than anything. But we get all caught up in that. And the reality of it is I think about that and I think, what a fabulous gift I was given to be presented with network marketing. I said no in the beginning, but once I said yes, my life is so different than what it would have been if network marketing hadn't entered it. What a gift to me. How selfish am I being if I don't offer that gift to someone else? If they don't want to take that gift, that's cool. That's not about me. That's for them for right now. Maybe forever it's not right for them, and that's okay. I have to respect that. But that's it more than anything. You have to be willing to let go of your own ego and begin to believe in yourself and believe in what you offer as a true gift for other people, and then be willing to do that over and over and over again, and know that if you just do that, you'll find the people for whom it's right, and you'll develop that skill set and get better. But that was it more than anything. I don't even think I had any other fears. The only fear I had was what other people would think. And so to overcome that, I had to get clear on what I thought. Like, what was it that I really thought about myself? And what was it that I really thought about network marketing? And I had to get those congruent and in alignment in a positive way. And then it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, because you know what? My family still loves me. And honestly, I can say 22 years into it, with the exception of Mean Janine, but she wasn't really my friend anyway, I don't think I've ever lost a friendship. You know, I may have some people who've been irritated by me at time to time, but I feel like I never pushed my opportunity. I never hounded people. I don't think I'm obnoxious on the internet. I really try not to be. So I may have had a few people block me. I don't post a whole lot about my opportunity or my company online, on my public profiles or anything like that. But I have truly never lost a friendship over it. So, when you can look back at that and go, well, that's pretty good, But that's it, letting go of ego. It's a tough one.
And what has been the greatest lesson that you've learned along the way?
The greatest lesson. That's a good question. The greatest lesson, it probably just has to do with, I don't know if that's going to be a lesson. That's going to be more like the greatest gift to me was like digging down and finding it within myself to do it. And then maybe that is the greatest lesson, is knowing that I had, as does anybody listening, I had inside me everything that I needed to be successful. I just had to find it and dig it out and cultivate it and grow it and do it. And that's really it. Like there's no secret script. There's no secret lead capture page. There's no secret bullet. There's no magic bullet. There's nothing like that. There's nothing that anybody's holding back from you that they're not telling you. There are a bunch of different ways to get here. There are people who have built multi-million-dollar businesses all offline. They never touch the internet. You can still do that today. There are people who've built it all online and never offline, and you can still do that today. But you have to know that both of them come with pluses and minuses and skill sets that have to be learned and things that have to be overcome and all of that. And you can do it. Anyone can do it. You just have to want to more than you want to hold on to those fears and that other stuff.
Okay. Who along the way has been your biggest inspiration?
Oh my gosh, there's been so many of them. It's hard to say one person because there have been so many. The very first person who I would say was my mentor was a lady named Jan Rue. A lot of people don't know Jan anymore. Discovery Toys was her company. She wrote the book MLM, The Internet and You, which I still have right here. And she really spoke to me. She was the first person who I could find. I couldn't find anybody in my company who was building it by themselves as a female. They were either building it with a spouse. I couldn't find anybody who was building it with small children because at this point, my husband wasn't building it with me anymore. I couldn't find any of that in my company. So I went looking, and Jan built it as a single mom with 3 young children and raised very successful children. That's what I was looking for. Like, I wanted someone who could help me still be a mom, find that elusive balance that we know doesn't even exist. And I could look at her, and I could look at her and say, well, she did it, and she has 3 very high functioning adult children now. So I know that it can be done. So she was a huge mentor to me, a huge mentor. And then, gosh, there have been so many along the way. Richard Brooke, Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire. He's been a huge mentor to me. There's so many, there's so many. Networking Times, like you held up, just that kind of stuff. Those are the things that really sustain me. The stories are what sustained me back when I was having self-doubts and different things like that. The things that really sustained me were looking at other people who had overcome the same obstacles and challenges. And knowing that I could too if I just stuck with it.
Okay. You definitely have to put in the work. And as I stated in the beginning, I mean, one of the things that, when I discovered more about you and I was following your program, I was like, wow, like you literally laid everything out for anyone who's want to take their business online. Because I've looked around in quite a few companies and, you're different. You know, your tips, you're doing it. First of all, you're doing it and you're achieving the success, but people aren't quite doing it like you. They're not. I was listening the other day to an interview. Tony Robbins was interviewing Jay Abraham, and he was talking pretty much about how you can add value to your business and like 10x it. Grant Cardone is kind of, you know, he's got this thing about 10xing it. But that interview, Jay Abraham was talking about 10xing your business and looking at the different angles and how you can increase value and increase revenue by increasing value. And that's something that you've done. And I actually invited quite a few people to listen to the podcast who I see trying to market their business online, but I can see, you know, like their numbers are low, because I think, you know, what you have is absolutely amazing and you offer it so freely. I mean, you freely share your information, and you've done everything. You've laid out everything. You tell people exactly what they need. I mean, you've got funnels, you've got everything, and it's a really great setup. I was a member, streetsmartwealth.com.
Streetsmartwealth.com/coach. Yep. That'll take them into it. Yeah. Or JackieUlmer.com/coach. Also, both of those do. But thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely do. You know, here's the thing. I'm a straight shooter. I don't teach anything that's theory. I don't teach anything that I have not done and tried myself. Now, you know, there may be some things where I'm in them and, you know, kind of using them, but I'm very upfront about it, that it's not like a primary marketing funnel for me. This is what I know about it. This is what I do. But I don't teach any theory, because, I mean, that doesn't serve anybody. You know, I teach only the stuff that I've done. Even with my own team, it's like I won't ask anybody to do anything that I haven't done. And if somebody wants to try something and I haven't, I'm very upfront. I don't know. I'm sure it'll work. Other people have done it. It'll work, but I don't know. But, you know, that's the thing. I mean, there's no secret, you know. This is what it takes over and over. I was with one of my coaching clients today, and we were laughing about that. And I said, you know, over the years, people have said, I'd just love to come and spend a day with you. And I always say, you'd be pretty bored and disappointed, to be honest. Like, it's not sexy, you know. This is what I do. I do the same things over and over again. And that's what you do, whether it's online, offline. That's what you do to build any successful business. You know, you think about McDonald's or Starbucks or anything. 6:30 comes, you open the doors, you make the coffee, you do this. You know, I mean, it's the same thing over and over again. And that's what it is in our business. Now, it provides amazing things. That doesn't mean that you're doing that 24/7 or whatever. I mean, it provides an amazing income. And then over time, you know, you're not working as much and you go on fabulous trips and you do all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, the stuff that you do to continue growing your business is the same over and over and over again. Now, the nice thing about it is, if you truly love people, that keeps it interesting, because you always have different people who are coming through your funnel, who you're talking to, who, you know, you're getting started, you're working with them. And that's what makes it magical, are those different people who come through. And that's what, you know, keeps it unique and different things like that. But, you know, the actual steps, it ain't sexy, baby. It's the same thing over and over again. But that's the reality of any business.
So now we'll go back online. And you touched on some of, I'm assuming, I know some of your answer here to this question, but what is your secret to your success online?
A couple of things. A, that work ethic. B, that I intuitively got that it wasn't about advertising. It was about providing value and building relationships. And, you know, the final piece is, I've never tried to pretend like I'm anything that I'm not. I will always share very freely that I was no, you know, starship to the top in network marketing. I had a lot of struggles to go through. So I always shared very freely that I didn't have all the answers, that I was not, I'm just a stay-at-home mom, you know, raising my kids and building this business and figuring it out one day at a time, one step at a time, one prospect at a time, one new team member at a time, figuring all that out. But I think one thing that appealed to people is that I did share my failures along with my successes. And that's the thing with online. I mean, let's face it, you can be anybody you want online if you want to. You can write any story you want, whatever. But when you're willing to share your own challenges, your own obstacles, your own flaws, weaknesses, and that kind of thing, it attracts people to you, because they realize if you're going to be authentic in that way, you're probably going to be authentic all the way through the process. And that's what people are looking for. You know, they're not looking to know that you are the number one person to hit the top of your company or any of that kind of thing. They just want to know that you're real, that you're doing it, and that you're going to be there to work with them if they decide to partner with you. So I think that's a big, big part of it. Okay. Too many people are worried about, well, I don't have a big success story yet. Well, you know what? Neither did I. Nobody does when they first get started. You can't let that stand in your way. So you share your journey. You share your journey with people, you know, all the things that you're learning.
Jackie, do you feel that the internet right now is saturated with lots of direct marketing companies?
No more saturated than offline. No, it's not saturated at all. I live in I laugh. It's like my company has around 400,000 team members in the company. And I live in a state that has 37 million people. Okay. My state alone, has 37 million people. There are 400,000 in my company, and we're in 8 countries. So a company doesn't get saturated and the internet doesn't get saturated. What gets saturated is our own mind with seeing that. And a lot of that has to do with, for instance, the Facebook algorithm. Like, people don't understand how the Facebook algorithm works. They don't understand that when they join a company and then like the company page and put the company website in their own bio, and then they start making friends with all the people that like that company page too, Facebook looks at that and they go, oh, well, you must want to see all the stuff that revolves around that company. So that's what we're going to put in your news feed, because that seems to be what you want. Then all of a sudden people look around and they go, this business is saturated. It's all over Facebook. It's all I see. It's like, well, you got to learn to get out of your own news feed. You've got to learn to network with people who are not within your company, not make friends with every single person who's in your company. What's the point of that? Like, especially if you don't know them, you're not sponsoring them. That doesn't mean you shouldn't make friends with anybody, of course. I don't mean it like that. But that's what's saturated. What's saturated is what people see often that they don't understand why they're seeing it. But, it's the same thing. It's like what we said for years about network marketing or any company. Every day, how many thousands of people turn 18? Every day, how many thousands of women become a new mom for the first time and start looking for a way to stay home? And where are they going to, and today, where are they going to go first? They're going to go to the internet. So it's not saturated to them when they're out there for the first time going, wonder what a business is that I could stay home. I have this new baby now. I'd really like to stay home. Every day, thousands of people today, become caregivers with elderly parents. And now they're looking for an option. Every day, people get downsized and go looking for options. So there's no such thing as saturation, online, offline, or with any particular company. Doesn't exist. It's a myth in our own minds.
Okay. Here's a question. How do you feel, 22 years now you're in the business, you know your struggles, your ups and your downs.
I was 10 when I started, just so you know.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, it's okay. So now that we've cleared that up, but when you see people coming in and you look at them and you, like you said, one of your first mentors said to you, I believe in you. And you see others and you know where you've come from, and you know that you've made it, and you know that it took putting in the work and believing in yourself, doing some personal development along the way. But then you see others giving up on themselves, and it's right there for them to touch, and that they can have everything it is that they want, but they let it go. What happens to you when you see that?
Well, I guess I become a little disappointed and sad for them. But I also know that some of them will come back around. You have to learn to detach from the outcome of anything with anybody. I'm learning that today with my own children. My son just enlisted in the Marines, which wow. I'm really proud of him. He's 23, he's going into special ops. He's got a whole, so he's not like straight out of high school, that kind of thing. He's got this whole plan. On the one hand, I'm scared. Let's face it, on the one hand, I'm scared. On the other hand, I'm really proud of him. But it's kind of one of those things where I have to let go of that. I don't control him anymore. He doesn't even live in my home anymore. I'm proud of him. I love him, have a great relationship with him. But it's like that's life. We have to detach and be willing to let go of things that we can't control. So we can have emotion around it, but you have to pretty quickly learn to let that go. And people have to be free to make their own choices, their own decisions. Some of them will cycle back around. Some of them never will. But I never burn a bridge with anybody because I've had a lot of people come back trying other companies. And a lot of them have said, you never unfriended me on Facebook. That's always a funny thing to me. It's like, well, you're not in my business anymore. I'm unfriending you. It's like, why would you, let people be, love them where they are, and, and leave the door open, never burn a bridge, allow people to come back. So I'm disappointed because I know what can be for them, but I also know that the timing has to be right for them in order to make it all work.
Okay. Jackie, how do you unwind after a long day?
Well, I do enjoy a nice glass of red wine. I will tell you that. I love to walk on the beach. It's kind of funny. I'm one of those entrepreneurial type people where it's my passion too. I don't enjoy watching TV. I don't enjoy a lot of those things. So, I love spending time with my husband. Now it's just the two of us kind of again. Our daughter still lives at home kind of, but she's off at college. So she comes back and forth and that kind of thing. But it doesn't take me a lot to unwind. It really doesn't. I love what I do. I truly love what I do. There are stressful times when I'm trying to figure out some online program or something like that. But other than that, it's really not stressful to me anymore. It used to be. But I just shut everything off and go do what I'm going to do.
Okay. What is your favorite app to use?
My favorite app. I always get asked that. Oh, my favorite app. Well, let's see. They fall into so many different categories. It's like there's so many different apps. So there's like I love WordSwag for making images. That's a great app. I love, the Facebook app, Messenger app. I love different things like that. So I guess it kind of would depend on what it's for. I'm not a huge app girl. Like I don't have a ton. I have exactly what I need, and some of them bog me down. I have to get rid of it and start over and that kind of thing. But I use several different ones for different things. But I don't know that I have one where I'm just like, I can't live without it.
What's your favorite food?
Well, I'm a total Mexican food gal. Okay. Love Mexican food. Fish tacos really are my favorite. On lettuce, no bun, or no tortilla. I'm the low carb kind of gal. Gluten-free, that kind of thing. But yeah, I love Mexican. Okay. Love fish, love seafood.
I've never had fish tacos. What type of
Where
fish
do you live?
do you?
I'm in California.
I'm in New York City.
Well, you can get them there too. In fact, last time I was there, I'm trying to think where we were, and I had fish tacos. I'll never come up with the name of it, but all different fish. I had fish tacos last night, and I had sea bass.
Ooh.
In them, and it was lovely. Almost any fish. I love salmon, but I don't love salmon in tacos for whatever reason. Okay. I don't know why. It just doesn't mix for me.
Okay. I can see that. Maybe like a tilapia, like a white fish would probably pick up those flavors really well.
Yep. Cod, tilapia, sea bass. Okay. Any white fish do well.
Okay. So Jackie, it is a tradition here at Lifestyle by Design to leave our guests with 3 action steps that they could implement into their lives right away to help start living their dreams. What 3 action steps would you offer?
Well, first, and it's going to sound redundant, but get very clear on your why. Most people do not seriously spend enough time with what their why is. It's not written down because you have to have a compelling why to move yourself forward. This is a volunteer business. You don't have a boss. You are your boss. And so you have to have a compelling why, a compelling reason why you're doing this to make you get out of bed every day and not go back to bed without taking some action step in your business. So number 1 is to get very connected with your why. Number 2 is to get a calendar. Seriously, get a calendar and use it. Okay, that calendar is your own personal coach. It's your tracking system. It's your accountability system. It's your coach. Because when people say to me, my business isn't working, first thing I say to them is, let's get out your calendar and let's start with last week and let's go all the way back through the month. Tell me what business steps you had. Oh, well, I didn't have any. Exactly. Your business can't work unless you're doing something. So I write everything down in my calendar. Probably have it around here somewhere. Everything. And my calendar's packed. It's full. It's jam-packed of stuff. So anytime it's not, I can look back. If I can look back and say, man, my business isn't growing, I look back at my calendar and I go, well, no wonder. Like, what was I doing? I track everything. Who did I talk to today? Who did I follow up with today? Who do I need to follow up with tomorrow? What networking events am I going to? What this, what that? You know, all that stuff is in my calendar. So I always know why my business is succeeding. And that's because I'm always taking action steps and I can look back and I can see. So that would be my second one, is get that calendar out. And then the third one would be to journal. I journaled for years and then I quit journaling. And it was kind of funny. I was thinking I was thinking toward the end of 2013, I kept thinking, you know, I think I want to start journaling again. And then oddly enough, my darling friend, Lisa Grossman, out of the blue, sends me a blank journal for Christmas. And I thought, all right, I get it. This is a sign. Like, she had no idea. I hadn't told her, but she sent me this journal and I started journaling, and it made a huge difference because I would get up every day and I would write how I was feeling. And at the end of the night, I would write down my gratitude in it. But it really helped me get all the ick out, if there was any ick going on, helped me get it out on paper, out of my system, helped me get all the good out. And then I could look back over and see, well, you know, I was feeling this way, or I was feeling that way, or whatever. And that's also what I used to write down ideas, like action steps I wanted to take, things that I thought of, people I thought of. And I use a pen system. I have color-coded pens. I have like 4 different colors. And I always use red when I want it to be something that I can quickly reference back to and find what it was. So if I have an idea, I write it in red. So yeah, I just do different things like that. So that would probably be the 3 things. They sound really simple. Like, I'm not going to tell you to go launch a blog or, you know, shoot a video or anything like that. If you will do those 3 things that I talk about, all the rest of that will fall into place. You'll figure out what it is that you need to do to move your business forward. But often it's those first tools that you have to start with to make it happen.
Okay. And Jackie, if anybody wants to reach out to you and contact you, they can reach out. I have here in the chat box, JackieUlmer.com, where they can go grab a copy of your free report, Profit in Your PJs, my 25 top lead sources online. And I actually have my copy here that I printed out.
Yay, I'm so proud of you. I have people print it. Good for you.
I printed it. I printed, highlighted, underlined. I mean, I have your 30 ideas for content. I have your blueprint for success. Oh, I have it all. I mean, literally, I totally recommend streetsmartwealth.com. Get a membership there because there's so much about, literally, like I said, you laid out everything. You know, you cut the learning curve in half. People just have to fill in the blanks. But again, it's about doing the work. I mean, you even have the social media where people don't want to think, you know, you send them a photograph with a quote and they can post that, or they can, you know, like change the words around as you suggested. So it's like almost like a no-brainer. You just have to do the work, and you literally, you cut it in half. You cut the learning curve in half. So
good. That's my goal, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. You know, it definitely does.
And what I love is that it's different. It's different from some of the advice that, you know, companies and coaches and not coaches, sponsors recommend for doing things online. But sometimes you can look and see that they're not having much success online. So why not just model somebody who is having success online?
That's it. Choose your mentors carefully, because that's important. Got to choose them very carefully.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So we can find you at JackieUlmer.com. And so when this goes on YouTube, they're not going to be able to see the chat box. Only those who signed up for this will be able to see it. So Jackie Ulmer, JackieUlmer.com. You can go there and grab her free report, Profit in Your PJs, or you could go to streetsmartwealth.com.
Yep, which is still my favorite name. So there you go.
Thank you, Jackie. I want to thank you very much for spending your time here and for sharing your experience in your wealth of, you know, knowledge and insight and what has worked for you. Thank you very much.
You are welcome, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Anything I can do to help anyone, I love it.
Thank you so much. You are definitely doing your part to help make the world a better place. And moms at home.
Yay!
Yay!
It's my goal.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone who logged on tonight. And we will be back next week with another podcast. So take care, Jackie. And again, thank you so much.
You bet.
It was an honor.
You too. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.